Let's build this simple Pomodoro application. So Pomodoro simply is just for productivity, right? So let's try to see for the focus time, we have 25 minutes. So if I start, as you can see, the time is running, of course. I can do reset and switch to break. And for the break time, I'm setting that to 5 minutes. And of course, I can change the time so we can see what happens if the time is 000, right? Let's see. So I just changed the time for the focus and for the break into 10 seconds. So let's try to see what happened. If I click start, as you can see, the time is running 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. As you can see the session right here, we get the 0 for now. Great. The audio is play and now we're on the break time. So let's try to click start. And as you can see right here, we have session, 1 session, right? Great. So now we on the focus time again because we already finished the break time. If I do that again, and if this is done, of course, the session will increment by 1. Now we have session 2, right? Let me showing you. All right, as you can see, the session now is 2. All right, that's what we are going to build. Really simple. So let's get started. All right, so first let's generate Next.js application. I'm going to give a name Pomodoro timer. TypeScript, I'm going to say yes, ESLint yes, Tailwind yes, source directory no, and app router yes, turbopack yes, and no for the import alias. Right, so let's cd into the Pomodoro timer folder and let's open that on the Visual Studio Code. So first, let's just create the UI. So I'm going to go to the page.tsx and just remove all of this, right? And we have a div, and then inside in here, we have the timer component, basically. So let's create the timer component on the component folder. So I like to create like a file right here. So I can do components for the folder and slash for the components file. So, right, so in this case, it's timer.tsx. So I can do that like so. Let's do RFC, change that to timer like this. And then now we can just import this like that. If I go back into localhost 3000, so let's run that first. npm run dev. So let's close the terminal here. And as you can see, we should see timer on the browser. So now let's go back to timer. And then I just want to add class name right here, maximal width into small. And also the background, I'm going to change that to just white background right here. Just save that. And then now we should see the different. No, of course, because on the page right here, we need to change this background. So let's say class name background. I'm going to say gray, let's say 5T maybe. Let's save that. And I hope you can see that. If you not see that, I just want to change that to red maybe. Let's try to see. Let's say 500. So here we go. So basically this is the timer, right? That have maximal width small. So I like to put this timer here into the center right here. So first, of course, I'm going to change this into have minimal height into screen. So if I do that, as you can see now, one screen have background red. And then also I'm going to set this component, timer component into the center. How I do that? I can use flex, okay, display flex, and then I set the flex to column. And also I'm going to set the item to center and also justify to center as well. Let's try to save. And now as you can see, the timer will on the center of the screen. Great. So let's add some maybe padding right here. Padding, let's say 4. And also I'm going to change the background to a gray in this case. Gray 5D. Here we go. Nice. So now let's try to add maybe heading 1 right here. Let's say simple Pomodoro like that. Let's do class name, text 3XL, and also font. I'm going to set that to bold. Let's say bold, and also margin bottom, let's say 8. I'm going to do text gray into 800. Save, and here we go. Great, we're done with the home component. Let's go to timer, and then let's styling this a little bit. So I'm going to add a shadow right here. So let's do shadow to maybe XL, right? Shadow XL like that. Let's save and let's take a look. We have the shadow, great. And also I'm going to set the width into full. Width, let's say full. Nice. And also I like to add padding to 8 maybe. So we have the space right here and also the rounded. Let's add rounded as well right here. Let's say rounded into, I'm going to set that to XL. Let's set that to XL like this. And we have that rounded. So now let's go back to the timer component. And then in here, I'm going to put a div, right? So inside this div that have a heading to, and also it's going to be focus time maybe. And also down here, I like to render the session, right? Let's say sessions like this. So now as you can see, we have focus time and also the session. I like to put the session on the right side right here. That's why in this div, I'm going to set that to display flex and then item center and justify to between. So here we go. And also I'm going to add a margin bottom to 4. Here we go. For the focus, let's add some class name right here that have text XL. Also, I'm going to set the font to medium, also capitalize. Here we go. We have focus time. Also for the session, let's add class name into text small. Also the text color is going to be gray 500. Nice. For example, we have session 1 and here we go. So now under this div, I'm going to also create another div. This is represent the timer. So I'm going to, let's say, I don't know, maybe 2500. Okay. And also I'm going to add class name right here into the text center. Also the text, I'm going to make it really large text right here, which is 6XL. And also the font, I'm going to set that to bold. And let's add margin bottom to 6 maybe. Okay, save and let's take a look. And here we go. Let's try to change the color into maybe a red color. So let's do text red 500. And here we go. And the bottom right here, we have button for the pause and reset. Okay, so let's just go down here. So let's create a div, and then inside this div, we have two button. So let's do button. The first button is gonna be pause button, and then we have the reset button. Like that. Let's take a look what we have. And here we go. Let's try to styling this a little bit. I'm gonna say class name into display flex, and also justify to center. The space between this button is going to be 4. Let's say margin bottom also 4. Let's take a look. We have this right here. So let's styling this pause and reset button. Let's go back to that button. And then here, I'm going to say class name into background yellow 500. Save. This is what I have. And then also I'm going to add padding X and padding Y. So padding X, I'm going to say 5, and padding Y, I'm going to set that to 2. All right. And also the rounded, I'm going to set that to large. Great. For the text of the post, I'm going to set that to white. Okay, great. Also, let's styling the reset. Maybe the styling is going to be really similar. So that's why I just gonna copy that and then paste that right here. And then for the background, I'm going to use, let's say gray. Let's do 200 maybe. Let's say 200, save that. And okay, also the color, I'm not going to use white in this case. Great. When I hover that, I like to just kind of have different background. Let's do when I hover that, background yellow. I add a little bit black, so I'm going to do 600. And for this one, I'm going to add background gray. Because this is 200, I'm going to set that to 300. It's a little bit dark. Let's see. Great. So under in this div, I'm going to add one button that have width 100%. So this button is going to have text switch to maybe break. Okay, so now I'm going to set the width of this button is going to be full, like that. And also for the background, I'm gonna do gray 100. Also, let's say when I hover it, I'm gonna set the background to gray 200. The rounded, I'm gonna set that to large. Also the text of the color, I'm gonna say gray 700. Okay, we also need to add height basically. So let's do height. I'm gonna add height right here into, not height, I'm gonna say padding vertically to 2. Just like this. Save that, and here we go. All right, great. So basically these 3 buttons have same style, okay? So now let's working with the functionality of this app. Let's go back to the folder right here. I'm going to create hooks. So let's do a folder hooks, and inside that I have a use timer.tsx. Okay, let's do RFC. But in this component, I'm not going to basically return a JSX like this, right? I just want to remove a variable. So in this case, I like to try to do maybe mode. Okay, maybe I'm gonna say focus. Okay, so let's try to use this one. So let's go back to timer, and then on the top right here, I'm gonna say cons, and then I grab what did I do right here? Mode, right? So I get mode from the use timer, and like that. So now I can just console log the mode so I can get the result on the console. And the result is going to be a focus. Let me see, right here. Okay, great. It's come from the server. And here I need to, the mode is going to be come from the state. So let's do state, and then the name of the state is going to be mode. So because we're using useState right here, we need to change this component into the client component. So let's do that on the top right here, use client, right? And then we need to specify the default of the mode is going to be focus. And then what the type of this mode. So basically I'm going to create that type. So let's do type, let's say timer mode, set equals to, I just need to have 2 mode for now. So the first thing is focus, and then next thing is going to be break. So now let's put the timer mode into the use state type right here. So let's do timer mode. Okay, so now this is going to be allow us to put focus, because in here we have focus on the type. If I change to something else, maybe I don't know, say whatever, right? As you can see, we get an error because it's not matched with our type right here. That's the beauty about TypeScript. Of course, we need to send the mode state right here into this return, okay? Because we have same name, okay? Mode equals to mode. We need to just remove this mode right here. This is basically do the same thing. Great. So now let's try to create another state, and then I'm gonna call this time left, right? So the time left is basically come from this variable right here, the default value. So I'm gonna say comment first, time to minutes. So basically we have focus time first. So this focus time is basically 25 minutes. I'm gonna set that like that. And for the break time, I'm gonna set that to just 5 minutes. Okay, great. So now for the time left by default, I'm gonna set that to focus time times, say focus time times by 60. It's just because this is going to be on a second. So basically this is 25 minutes in second, right? So that's why I times by 60 right here. So now let's working with the timer logic. So basically the time right here, time left, right? In this case is 25 minutes. This will be decrement by 1 every second. So let's do that in here. I'm gonna say use effect like that. And this is gonna be run on the first render in this case, right? Because we are going to back this later. So for now, just leave it like this. And then in here, I'm going to create a variable called interval. Set it equals to a set interval, right? So this set interval should be run every 1,000 millisecond, which is 1 second. So every 1 second, what I'm going to do is basically set the time left into, let's grab the previous value like this, and then what I'm going to do is just previous plus 1 or decrement by 1, right? And that's it. So now we get an error here that say type of void is not assignable to type number. What I'm doing wrong here? That is just because this set time left is not return anything. So let's do return previous decrement by 1. Great. So now if I just send this time left into this return, right? And then grabbing that on the timer component, let's do that like this. So now let's try to just console log this time left. Okay. As you can see, we get an error that say attempt to call the default export of project. This hooks right here from the server, but it's on the client. It's not possible to invoke a client function from the server. Oh, basically, we cannot use the use client right here, use client component into the timer function, basically. So we cannot use like this. So in here, basically, we need to change this component, the timer component, into the client component like this. And now hopefully it just works. So now as you can see on the console, this is basically will decrement by 1 every second. So next we need to basically clear the interval on this use of x. So we can do return, right, and run this arrow function. And inside that, I'm going to say clear, or maybe we can check that first. If the interval have a value, what I'm going to do is, let's say clear interval, right, and put the interval variable like so. And it's going to be works. Great. So now let's put that value here into the, let's do right here. So let's try. So I'm going to put the time left right here. And as you can see, it's run, right? For the 40, 1412, 1411, and etc. So basically this format is on the second, okay? So we need to format that time. So let's go back on the timer, and then I'm going to basically create, let's add comment first right here. I'm gonna say format time as minute to second, just like this. So first I'm gonna say const minutes, right? Set equals to, I'm gonna use math.floor in this case, and then I'm gonna put the time left divided by 60. So why minute equals to time left divided by 60? So basically, don't forget your math on school. I'm going to show you right here. So basically 1 minute times by 60 second is going to be equal to 60 second, right? And then down here, 1 m, 1 times m is basically m, okay? And then I'm going to say times by 60 second equals to 60 second. And then down here, if I do m equals to, right, what happened is 60 second divided by 60 second, of course. And we know this is going to be the time left. This is time left, and this is going to be time left. That's why a minute equals to time left divided by 60 second right here. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And also I'm going to say const seconds, right? Set equals to time left, right? And this is basically what I call this. So this is basically modulo operation. So I'm gonna put 60 right here. So what happened is, let me search a little bit. What is modulo operation? This is basically known as a reminder operation. Return the reminder of a division operation. What the hell is that? So basically, let's take a look right here. 25, right, divided by 7, we get 3, but we get a reminder 4, right? Because 3 times 7 is 21, and 25 decrement by 21 is going to be 4. Okay, so that's why 25 modulo 7 is 4. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let's go back in here. And then the next thing is we need to format the time. Cons and then formatted time set equals to, I'm going to use backtick right here. And then let's grab the minutes, right? And also I'm going to change that minute into the string like this. And also I'm going to use path, let me do path star, and then let's do 2 and then 0 right here. So what happened is basically, so let's learn a little bit about path star method. As you can see right here on the developer Mozilla, we have this example right here. Okay, we have variable called str1, which is string 1, set equals to 5. So in this string right here, basically we just have one character, which is 5, and then we just console log the string1 dot path star and then 2. 2 is basically the maximal of length. So if the maximal length is 2, but we have one length on the string, of course this 0, which is the second parameter of the path star, will applying on the front of the string. So that's why the result is 0, 5. But if we have a 5t for the string 1 and then the maximal length is 2, so this is basically half same length, right? Of course, this 0 string is not going to be applying on the front of the 5t because we already have 2 character right here. So the result is still going to be 5t. Okay, that's about the path star method basically. Let's go back and then let's put the formatted time into this right here. So let's putting that. Let's take a look what happened. So as you can see, we have some problem also right here. If the number of the second is maybe 5 or 4, basically have one length, right? We don't have 0 on the front of that second. So that's why in here, we also need to make sure that this second, it should be also have this method right here. Okay, so we need to also copy that and just paste that on the second as well. So it's going to be look like this. All right, so as you can see, if the value is 7, 9, 5, now we have 0 on the front of the value. That's what we want basically. So basically, I don't like to the number right here just run immediately when I refresh the browser. Of course, I like to the number is run when I click start button. Okay, so let's go back to the timer, and then here I'm going to change this to start. And then in this button, I'm going to add on click event. So this on click is going to be run the toggle timer. Okay, the toggle timer, it should be come from the use timer. So let's put it like that, and then we need to return that also right here. And then let's create that function. I'm going to create that on the top right here, cons toggle timer. Set equals to arrow function here. And then what I'm going to do is run the set time left, or I think I'm going to create another state called is active. So let's do state and then let's say is active like that. And then this is going to be in Boolean. Let's do Boolean. By default, it's going to be false. So let's try to run this right here. So set is active. So I'm gonna grab the previous value and I'm gonna say like this. So basically, if the previous value is false, it will change that value into true. If the default value is true, it will change that to a false. Okay, let's try to save that. And then we need to basically run this use effect when the is active is true, right? So let's make sure the is active will becoming the dependency of the use effect. And we're gonna run this interval right here inside the is active. So what I'm gonna do is, let's say if the is active is true, I'm going to run this interval right here, right? And then else, I'm gonna say else. So let's do, I think this interval is not, it's not fine in here. Okay, so that's why I'm going to put that interval on the top right here. So let's do let interval set equals to This is going to be node.js.timeout, and or I'm going to set that to null, just like this. Right, so we are going to use that right here. So I'm going to say interval set equals to set interval. And also when the isActive is false, what I'm going to do is, let's say, clear interval into interval. So basically, let me hover this one, no overload match this call, because oh yeah, I think we need to make sure that in here we still have the interval. So basically, if the isActive is false, but we have still this interval value, we need to make sure the clear interval is run. Okay, great. So now let's try to refresh this one, and then I'm going to click start. Okay, now if I click start, it's run. And of course, if I click start, the button here is going to be changed, right? It's not start, but it should be pause. Let's go back to timer right here, and then let's try to see what we have right here. So basically, I'm going to add this condition. If the isActive is true, I'm going to showing pause. If isActive false, I'm going to showing star. So this isActive is going to be come from this use timer hooks. Let's paste that right here, and also just make sure we also return that down here on the return. So we can use that right there. Okay, so let's try to click start, and as you can see, now the text will becoming pause, and if I click pause, it's basically becoming star, and then now it's just stop right here. Now let's work again with the reset. So I'm gonna call this reset timer. So reset timer is gonna be still come from the use timer hooks like this. Let's go back to use timer hooks, and then just make sure we return down here, and then let's create the function on the top right here. So let's do const reset timer set equals to an arrow function like this. So first we need to make sure the set is active is going to be false, and then I'm going to make sure that the set time left, right? The set time left is going to be get the default value. So I'm going to create another function right here called, let's say, get duration, because the default value from the focus and for the break is different. Okay, so that's why I create another function to do that. So in here I'm going to say get duration set equals to arrow function. So this function is going to be have timer mode as a parameter right here, timer mode. And then let's try to run the get duration on this set time left. So get duration, and then we need to send the mode right here. Mode is basically come from the state. Okay, so what I want to do here is let's try to return. Let's say return if the timer mode is focus. What I'm going to do is add the focus times by 60. If the timer mode is something else, in this case is break, I'm going to add break time times 60. Okay, which is 5 minutes. And let's try to hover this one. We get an error right here. So let's try to add a type for the timer mode. Is gonna be time mode like this, gonna become from this type. So now let's try to reset the timer. Let's go back in here. I'm gonna start. It's gonna be run. Okay, so I can pause. It will pause the running of this time. I can start that again. As you can see, great. If I click reset, it will reset the value from the 25 minute, of course, because we on the focus time right now. Nice. So the another thing is I'm going to make sure this button is work, the switch to break button. Let's go back to the timer, and then let's try to find that button, which is this button right here. So when I click this button, I'm going to run function called switch mode. So this switch mode, it still come from the use timer hooks. Let's do that like this, and then go back to use timer hooks, and then we need to just run that function. We don't have this one, of course, we need to create that function. Let's do const switch mode set equals to arrow function. So now let's get the new mode value. If the mode now is focus, change the new mode into break. If the mode now is break, change that to focus. Okay, so down here I'm gonna say set mode into new mode, just like that. Let's try. I'm going to switch. Of course nothing happened now, but of course, I believe this mode will change. Let's go back to timer, and then I just want to console log the mode right here, right? I believe this is gonna be changed. If I switch, as you can see now, we on the focus. If I switch that again, we on the break. Okay, this is works, but nothing happened on the top right here because we're not adding any condition basically. So on this heading 2, I'm going to remove this focus time, and I'm going to change that with this condition. If the mode is focus, I'm going to render the focus time. Otherwise, render this break time. Let's see. Okay, as you can see, this is going to be changed. Nice. I also want to change the text right here, right? Let's go very bottom here on the switch to break. So this break is basically have condition. As you can see, if the mode is focus, using break, otherwise use focus. Let's see what happens. Switch to focus, switch to break, and etc. Okay, it just works. But this time is not works. Of course, we need to also change that. So the first thing I'm going to change is basically the color. So as you can see right here, it's using red color. Okay, so I'm going to change all of this to basically have this condition. If we on the focus, we're using red color, but if we on the break, use this green color. As you can see, the color is changed. Now the value it should also change. Let's go back to the use timer hooks. So basically, we need to change this focus time right here to use the break time, right? Because we already have this get duration function, just paste this time mode, right? So we can run that right here on the, let me go to switch mode. Okay, so I'm going to run this one, set time left into get duration, and then we paste this new mode. So in this case, break, right? If we send break, of course, we are going to run this one. Okay, break time times by 60. Let's try. If I switch, as you can see, 5 minutes, switch that again, 25 minutes. So the next thing is basically the auto switch. If I get the timer reach 000, I like to automatically switch the mode into the break. If the break reach 000, I also want to auto switch into the focus time. So in here, I want to just paste this really simple use effect. As you can see, this is basically auto switch mode when timer reaches 0. Timer left and switch mode is basically the dependency of this use effect. And as you can see inside in here, I just check if the time left is equal to 0, right? We switch the mode basically. We run this function switch mode right here. But if I hover that, switch mode function make the dependency of the use effect hooks. So we cannot use just normal arrow function like this. So we need to use callback, by the way, in order to make it works. What I'm going to do is let's just copy all of this, right? Just cut that out. And I'm going to run use callback like this. And then inside here, I'm going to run that. And then for the dependency of the use callback is basically the mode, because we're using that right here. And also I'm going to put the get duration as well as a dependency of the use callback. So now as you can see, there is no error. In here also we get an error because the get duration using as a dependency of the switch mode. Of course, we also need to change this into the basically use callback function. So now let's put that like this. And of course, we need to put the dependency of this get duration. In this case, it's just empty array. Okay, so now our code is just clean. Great. Let's try to basically change the focus time. I just want to see the switch mode right here, right? So let's try to change that to 1, for example. And then I'm gonna save. Let's take a look what happened. We get the 1 minute right here. If I click start. All right, so let's see what happened. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If this is auto switch, it works. Great. Now we're on the break time. All right, it just works. Great. After the auto switch work, the number of the time is still counting, right? So we need to add this set active into false in order to make that stop basically. Okay, so the next thing is let's try to see what we need to add. I'm going to add this session right here, right? If I switch, I'm going to add new session basically. Let's go back to let me go to the switch mode right here. What I'm gonna do is let's just increment the session right here. And then I'm gonna create another state basically called session. And by default, I'm gonna set that to 0, right? So of course, we need to make sure the set session here will run inside the mode equals to focus. When on the brick, we don't have to running that, okay? Great, so now let's return the session value into the down here into that use timer return. And then now we can use that on the timer. So let's go on the top right here and then grab the sessions just like this. And now we can use that value on right here. So let's just putting that like this. Here we go. So now I'm going to change this 60 into maybe 5 seconds just for a development mode. Right, so let's try to click start right here. And as you can see, the session now is 0. And then after the focus time done, great. As you can see, we on the session 1 and now we on the break time. If I click start that again, of course, nothing will happen on the session. It's still 1. Great. If I do that again, focus time, right? Let's see what happened. Session 2. Okay, that's what we want. So basically, I like to change the color of the background of this star and pose. So let's go back to timer and then I'm going to scroll a little bit. Let's go to toggle timer right here on this class name, right? I just want to grab all this class name and then just paste this one right here. So basically, if the isActive is true, I'm going to use this background yellow, right? If the isActive false, I'm going to use this background blue. So as you can see, by default is blue. When I click start, it's becoming yellow right now. If I click post that again, it's blue. Click that again, it's yellow. That's what I want. So the last thing is basically the sound. So let's go back right here. I just want to paste this notification.mp3. I just download that random on the internet. Let's go to public and just paste that right here. As you can see, notification.mp3. If I play, it's gonna look like that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is let's go to use timer and then let's scroll it down. We are going to play that on this, let me see, use effect right here when the isActive is true. So in here, inside the set time left, I'm going to add another condition. So let's do if the previous value is less than or equals to 1, right? What I'm going to do is let's just add a comment in here, times is up. Okay, so I'm going to say clear interval, right? So let's do interval right here and then just make sure we add explanation in here just to make sure we don't get any error. And also down here we need to play notification sound. Great. And then I'm going to use try and catch. So if we have some error when we play the music, I just like to console log the error by the way. So let's do console log like this and then just console error playing sound, and it's just fine. So inside this try, what I'm going to do is let's say, we can do cons audio and say new audio. And then I grab the audio from the / notification.mp3 because I get that file from the public, and then just play the music like that. And I can do like maybe catch, right? If we cannot play that, I'm gonna say grab the event and then I'm gonna say console log, let's say audio error, or error playing sound is fine. And here what I'm gonna do is, of course, we need to add this one right here. We still get this error. What happened? Oh yeah, here we go. So now let's try to hear the sound. Let's go back in here. We're on the focus time. If I click start, as you can see, hopefully, great, we get that sound. Pretty nice. Now we're on the break time, and if I click start, hopefully we also get that sound. Okay, that's nice. And then the next thing what I'm going to do is just change the 5 right here into 60-second, right? Just change all of that to 60-second. And then we also need to change this focus time into whatever you want. So normally for Pomodoro app is going to be 25 minutes for the focus time. And then for the break time is just 5 minutes. Okay, so here we go. So now we have the simple Pomodoro works. And of course, all the button is just works, right? That's just great. So anyway, thank you so much if you're watching this video until the end. And then I have a problem with my camera, by the way. So thank you so much, guys, and see you on the next one.